The garage radio had been sitting silent for 51 days when my son-in-law finally said out loud what he'd been thinking for months. I know it was 51 days because I'd been keeping track, not on a calendar, just in my head, the way you track anything that matters. The radio was a Panasonic I'd had since 2003. Classic rock, mostly. It sat on the shelf above my workbench, next to a can of WD-40 and a coffee mug I never bothered bringing back inside. Every morning for years, I'd walk out to the garage, click it on, and whatever I was working on that day got done to the sound of Tom Petty or Creedence Clearwater Revival. Then my son-in-law moved in, and the radio went off. My name is Gerald Whitfield. I'm 67 years old. I live in Dayton, Ohio in a house I've owned since 1987 and have been working on with my own hands ever since. The back addition, the laundry room, and the extra half bath I framed and drywalled myself over 2 summers in the early 90s. The garage I rewired completely in 2001 after a panel issue. I spent 38 years as an industrial electrician before I retired, and I can tell you there is a specific kind of satisfaction that comes from fixing something yourself, from knowing that every wire in a wall runs exactly where you put it. I tell you that not to brag. I tell you that because it's important to understand what that house meant to me before I tell you what happened to it. My wife Linda passed in 2019, cancer caught late. We had 31 years together, and after she was gone, the house got quieter in a way that takes time to get used to. My daughter Nadine checked on me a lot that first year, called almost every day, came over on Sundays. She's a good person. She always has been. She married Clint Pruitt about 4 years ago. He sold insurance, home, auto, life for a regional firm out of Columbus. On the surface, Clint was easy to be around at holidays. He remembered what you drank. He laughed at the right moments. He had a way of making you feel like he was on your side, agreeing with whatever you said and steering the conversation so naturally that you didn't notice you just agreed to something you hadn't intended to. I didn't dislike him in the beginning, but I noticed things. The way Nadine got quieter around him at the dinner table. The way she'd start to say something and then glance at him before finishing the sentence. Small things. The kind of thing you file away and don't mention because maybe you're reading too much into it. And besides, it's their marriage, not yours. Nadine worked retail management at a mall on the west side of Dayton. She worked hard. She wasn't flashy about money the way Clint was. He always had the newest phone, always talking about some deal he was close to closing, but they seemed stable enough. That's what I thought. March of last year, they came to Sunday dinner, and Clint laid out the situation. He'd invested in a real estate partnership, one of those deals where a group pools money to flip distressed properties. The partnership collapsed. His share of the loss came to around $28,000. Between that and what they owed on 2 car payments and credit cards, they couldn't cover rent anymore. Their lease was up at the end of the month. He pitched it the way he pitched everything calm, reasonable, already pre-framed, so that saying no would make you seem unreasonable. They just needed 6 months, maybe a little less. They'd contribute to household expenses. It would give them time to stabilize and get back out on their own. The whole time he talked, Nadine sat next to him and looked at her plate. I looked at her when he finished. She looked up and there was something in her face. Not manipulation, just hope. The kind a kid has when they really need something and don't know how else to ask. I said yes, I want to be clear about that. I said yes for Nadine, not for Clint. That distinction matters, and I'll come back to it. My house has 3 bedrooms upstairs and a detached 2-car garage in the backyard that I've been working in since 1989. That garage is not just storage space. It's where I've rebuilt 2 engines. It's where my fishing gear hangs on a pegboard I organize myself rod by rod, every lure in its place. There's a mini fridge in the corner, always stocked. There's a workbench along the back wall that I built from scratch out of 2x 4s and 3/4-inch plywood, and it is exactly the right height for a man of 6 feet to work at without hunching. When Clint and Nadine arrived with their things, 2 car trips, mostly clothes and boxes of kitchen items, Nadine insisted on bringing, I showed them the guest room and told them they were welcome. I meant it. The first few weeks were fine, if a little awkward. We ate dinner together most nights. Nadine helped with dishes without being asked. Clint talked a lot about a big commercial client he was close to landing, about plans they had once things settled down. I listened. I didn't push. I was making an honest effort to make it work. The notes started in the 4th week. Not confrontations, not complaints to my face. Notes. Folded pieces of paper left on the kitchen counter, always in Nadine's handwriting, always with an apologetic opening line. The first one said, "Dad, sorry to bother you. Clint works from home on Tuesdays and Thursdays now and says the garage radio carries through the kitchen wall in the morning. Would it be okay to keep it down those days?" I read it twice, then I folded it back up and put it in my pocket. I told myself it was a reasonable request. Sound carries, it wasn't worth making an issue over, so I stopped playing the radio on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. 2 weeks later, there was another note. Clint had added a third work-from-home day. Could I keep the radio off all weekday mornings until 10? It would really help with his calls. I said fine. The radio went off every weekday morning, then it just stayed off. I told myself I was being flexible, being a good host. That's what you do when family's in a tough spot. You give a little, you make adjustments. Maybe I'd gotten too set in my ways after years of living alone. Maybe a little compromise was good for me, that's what I told myself. By May, about 2 months after they moved in, the dynamic had shifted in ways I kept telling myself weren't a big deal. Clint stopped eating dinner with us most nights. He'd come home, say he had work to finish, and disappear into the bedroom. Nadine would come out to make something quick and take it back to him. The dinners that used to be the three of us turned into just me at the table with the TV on. I didn't say anything. I figured he was stressed about money, about the job, about the whole situation. People handle pressure differently. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Then in June, Nadine left a new note on the counter. This one was longer than the others. She said Clint had been using a corner of the garage to store a few work materials, just temporarily, and hoped I didn't mind. She said he'd keep it tidy and it wouldn't take up much space. I walked out to the garage that afternoon and found 4 boxes stacked against the wall near the side door. Cardboard sealed with tape, labeled in marker, not his name, a business name I didn't recognize. I didn't open the boxes. I moved them to one side so I could still get to my workbench and left it alone. By July, it was 11 boxes. By August, it was closer to 20 plus a folding table set up in the middle of the floor, a label printer, a small postal scale, and a stack of prepaid shipping envelopes. My garage, the space I'd wired and built and worked in for 35 years, had become a shipping warehouse for whatever Clint was running on the side. I had to turn sideways to get to my own toolbox. The 94 F-150 I'd been slowly restoring since I retired sat untouched in the other bay. I couldn't get around his setup to work on it properly, so I stopped trying. I told myself it was temporary. 6 months, he'd said. We were halfway there. One Saturday afternoon in late August, Clint had a few of his work friends over. 3 guys, mid-30s, all dressed the same way Clint dressed, khakis and collared shirts, like they were always about to walk into a meeting. I came in from the backyard and Clint was in the middle of telling some story. He looked up when I came through the door, gestured toward me without really stopping his story, and said, "That's Nadine's dad. He keeps an eye on the place for us." For us. I stood there for a moment. One of the guys nodded at me, the way you nod at someone who holds a door open for you. Then they went back to the conversation. I went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and went back outside, keeps an eye on the place, in my own house. The house I'd owned for 37 years. I sat on the back porch for a while after that. My neighbor Faye was out in her yard next door, deadheading her roses the way she did every Saturday. Faye's 64, been next door since 2004, runs a small hair salon out of her home. She's the kind of neighbor who notices things without making a production of it. She looked up and saw me sitting there and gave me a wave. Then she looked a little closer. "Gerald," she said, "I haven't heard your radio in a while. You doing all right?" "Fine," I said. "Just taking it easy." She looked at me the way women look at you when they know you're not telling the whole truth, but they're going to let you have it for now. "You look tired," she said. "Not sick tired, the other kind." I didn't have much of an answer for that. After she went inside, I sat there thinking about what she'd said. The other kind of tired, I knew exactly what she meant. It's the tired that comes from spending every day making yourself smaller so someone else stays comfortable, from choosing your words carefully in your own kitchen, from walking through your own garage like a visitor. I'd been doing that for 5 months and hadn't fully admitted it to myself until Faye said it out loud. That night, I went to bed and lay there going over the last few months in my head. The notes, the boxes, the radio. Being introduced as the man who keeps an eye on the place. Each one on its own was small, manageable, easy to explain away. But lined up together, they told a story I didn't like. I thought about what I actually knew for certain. I knew the house was mine. Paid off in 2011, deed in my name, no one else on the title. I knew that Clint and Nadine were living there because I'd invited them, not because they had any legal right to be there. I knew that whatever Clint was running out of my garage, he'd never asked my permission to set it up. He'd just moved in one box at a time until it was too established to easily question. That was the part that stayed with me. Not one big ask. Just 100 small ones, each one reasonable on its own, each one moving the line a little further. I was an electrician for 38 years. The most dangerous faults aren't the ones that trip the breaker immediately. They're the ones that build slowly, a little heat, a little resistance, until one day something gives. I hadn't tripped yet, but I was starting to feel the heat. I didn't do anything dramatic that night. I just made a decision quietly, the way I make most decisions. I was going to start paying attention differently, not reacting, watching, because in my experience, when something's been built wrong, you need to understand the whole system before you start pulling wires. The breaking point came on a Thursday in October. I'd gone out to the garage in the late afternoon to finally dig out my tackle box. I hadn't been fishing since April, and I decided that weekend I was going to go whether the garage was a mess or not. I started moving Clint's boxes to clear a path to the back shelf, where I kept my gear, and one of the stacks shifted and tipped. A box hit the floor and split open. Papers slid out across the concrete. I crouched down and started gathering them up, not trying to read them, just cleaning up the mess, but one sheet stopped me. It was a business registration form, State of Ohio. The business name was Pruitt Home Solutions, LLC. The registered address was 412 Birchwood Lane, Dayton, Ohio. My address, I read it again. Then I set it on the workbench and looked through the rest of what had fallen out. There were more forms: a federal tax registration, a vendor account application, all of them listing my home address as the business address for Clint's operation, whatever it actually was. He had registered a business to my property without telling me, without asking me, without a single conversation. I stacked the papers neatly, put them back in the box, and went inside. Clint was in the kitchen getting a beer from the refrigerator. Nadine was at the table on her phone. I asked Clint if he had a minute. He said sure and leaned against the counter with the easy confidence of a man who doesn't expect to be challenged. I told him what I'd found. I asked him when he'd planned to mention it. He didn't flinch. He didn't apologize. He took a slow drink from the bottle and looked at me with an expression I can only describe as patient. The way a manager looks at someone who's raised a concern that he's already decided doesn't matter. "Gerald," he said, "I needed a mailing address for the LLC. It's a formality. It doesn't affect you at all." I said it was my address and he should have asked. He set the bottle down. "Look," he said, "let's be honest about the situation here. You're 67, you're retired. You're sitting on this house and not really doing much with it. We're the ones actually contributing around here. You need us more than we need you." He paused for a second, then finished it. "You're old. What are you going to do about it?" I looked at Nadine. She was still looking at her phone or pretending to. Her jaw was tight in the way it gets when she's uncomfortable and doesn't know how to move. She didn't look up. She didn't say a word. That was the moment. Not Clint's speech, though that was bad enough. It was Nadine sitting 3 feet away and saying nothing. That was the thing that settled it for me. I nodded once. I told Clint I understood. Then I walked to the garage and closed the door behind me. I stood at my workbench for a long time. The F-150 was still sitting where it had been for months, untouched, waiting. I put my hand on the hood and just stood there. Here's what I knew. Clint had made a mistake. Not the business registration, though that was part of it. His mistake was telling me directly out loud in his own words that I was too old and too weak to do anything about what he'd done. He'd gotten comfortable. He'd stopped being careful. In my trade, that's when things go wrong. I didn't sleep much that night, but I wasn't angry in the way that makes you act stupid. I was calm in the way I get when I'm working through a problem, tracing the circuit, finding the fault, planning the fix. The next morning, I drove to a hardware store and bought a small security camera, the kind that records to a memory card and connects to your phone, completely legal, on my own property. I mounted it in the upper corner of the garage that afternoon, angled to cover the work area where Clint's operation was set up. I tested the feed on my phone, clear picture, date, and timestamp in the corner. Then I called my brother Earl. Earl is 70, lives about 40 minutes north of me, did nursing for 30 years before he retired. He's not a man who gets excited about things. I told him the full story, start to finish, and he listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, "Gerald, first thing you do is get a lawyer. Don't do anything else until you've talked to a lawyer." That was the right answer. I found a real estate attorney named Patricia Hollis. Her office was downtown, about a 15-minute drive. I brought my deed, my mortgage payoff papers from 2011, the property tax records, everything I had. I sat across from her desk and laid it all out. She went through the documents carefully. Then she looked up and said what I already knew but needed to hear from someone who knew the law. This was my house, sole owner, my name only on the title. Clint Pruitt had no legal claim, no tenancy agreement, no standing, and registering a business to someone else's residential address without written consent was a problem with multiple agencies, including the city and the state. She asked me what outcome I was looking for. I told her I wanted them out. Legal, clean, no room for argument. I wanted it done the right way, so that when it was over, it was over. She said that was absolutely achievable. We talked through the steps. I left her office with a clear picture of exactly what was going to happen and in what order. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. I spent the next 3 weeks letting things stay quiet on the surface. I didn't change my routine. I ate dinner, watched the game, went to bed at the same time I always did. I let Clint think his speech had landed the way he'd intended. He seemed relaxed, maybe a little more so than usual, the way people get when they've decided a problem is handled. It wasn't handled. Every weekday while Clint was running his operation in my garage, the camera was recording. I checked the footage each evening on my phone. Date stamped, time stamped, clear as anything. Clint in my garage at my workbench, using my electrical outlets, running a commercial shipping business out of a residential property he had no legal claim to. I copied the files to a backup drive every few days and kept it in my bedroom. I also did some reading. The Ohio Department of Insurance has a public website. Insurance agents in Ohio are required to disclose outside business activities to their employer and in some cases to the department itself. Running an undisclosed side business while holding an active license is a compliance issue. I'm not a lawyer and I didn't pretend to understand every detail, but I understood enough to know there was something there worth reporting. I called Patricia Hollis and walked her through what I'd collected. She reviewed the footage descriptions and the registration documents I'd photographed. She said the evidence was solid. She said we were ready to move. We filed a formal complaint with the Ohio Department of Insurance citing the undisclosed outside business activity. We filed a report with the city of Dayton regarding improper commercial use of a residential address, and then Patricia mailed a formal 30-day eviction notice to Clint Pruitt and Nadine Pruitt at 412 Birchwood Lane. Sent certified mail, return receipt requested. Legal, clean, no drama attached to it. Just paperwork doing what paperwork does. I was in the living room watching a Sunday afternoon game when they came home and found the certified letter on the counter. I heard Clint's voice change in the hallway. The smooth, easy tone he always used was gone. He came around the corner into the living room holding the envelope and his face was doing something I hadn't seen before. The salesman was gone. What was left underneath wasn't pretty. "What is this?" he said. "It's a legal eviction notice. You have 30 days to vacate the property. You can't do this. This is Nadine's family home. Nadine has never been on the deed. You've never been on the deed. This is my property. My attorney's contact information is in the letter. I'd recommend you call her." He stood there for a moment. I could see him working through it, looking for the angle, trying to find the leverage point he'd used before. The thing about leverage is it only works if the other person doesn't know what they're actually standing on. He'd spent 7 months convincing me I was dependent on him. He hadn't considered that I might spend some of that time figuring out that I wasn't. "You'll regret this," he said. "I already regret it took me this long," I told him. I turned back to the game. Nadine came to me later that night after Clint had gone to bed. She sat down across from me at the kitchen table and she cried, not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind that's worse. She said she was sorry. She said she'd known things had gone wrong and hadn't known how to stop it. She said she didn't know about the business registration until after it was already done. I believed her. I told her I believed her. I also told her the eviction stood. That didn't change. But I told her she was my daughter and that wasn't going to change either, and that when she was ready to have a real conversation, without Clint in the room, I'd be here. She nodded and went back to the bedroom. They were out in 23 days. Clint's Ohio insurance license showed up as suspended in the public database about 6 weeks later, pending a conduct review. I found that on my own one evening just checking. I don't know what came of it after that. That's not my business anymore. The weekend after they left, I spent a Saturday morning clearing the garage back to what it was supposed to be, moved the last of Clint's boxes to the curb for pickup, reorganized the pegboard, plugged the mini fridge back in, rolled up next to the F-150 and spent a couple hours just looking at what still needed doing, making a list, feeling good about having a list to make. Then I clicked the radio on. Faye heard it from next door. She came out to her driveway and looked over the fence with a big smile and gave me a thumbs up. I gave her one back. Earl drove down the following Saturday and we went out to the reservoir I've been fishing since I was in my 30s. We got there at 6 in the morning when the water was still flat. We didn't talk about Clint. We didn't talk about any of it. We just fished. I slept 8 hours that night. First time in almost a year. If you're watching this and something in this story sounds familiar, I want to say something directly to you. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if the person taking advantage of you is family. What you built, what you own, what you worked for, that belongs to you. You know your rights. Get the paperwork in order before you have any confrontation. Find a good attorney and ask the right questions. The law is on your side more than you think. The men who told you that you're too old to do anything about it are counting on you to believe them. Don't.